What if the people who were with you the night you died were also the last ones to tell your story? And something about that story never felt right? 21-year-old Lauren Agee went to Wakefest at Center Hill Lake for what should have been a carefree summer weekend. She was vibrant, athletic, and full of life, the kind of person people gravitated toward. She had plans, a future, and people who loved her deeply. But by the next day, Lauren would be found floating in the water below a remote cliffside campsite. Authorities would call it an accident. Her family would spend years asking why it never felt like one. Lauren traveled to the festival with Hannah Palmer, Hannah's boyfriend Aaron Lilly, and Christopher Stout. What she believed would be a fun trip quickly turned uneasy. Instead of staying in a cabin, the group ended up at an isolated campsite on top of a steep, dangerous cliff, only accessible by boat, with jagged terrain and a long drop to the lake below. Earlier that day, Lauren had been drinking and at one point hit her head while cliff jumping. Still later that night, she was seen at a bar acting like herself, but there were signs she was uncomfortable. She reportedly wanted to leave, asked others for a place to stay, and didn't want to remain at that campsite. But she stayed. Sometime after returning to the cliff in the early morning hours, something happened. Lauren was last known to be near a hammock positioned dangerously close to the edge. By morning she was gone. Her friends later said they assumed she had wandered off, maybe back to the marina, maybe to meet someone. They didn't call police. They didn't report her missing. And according to accounts, her personal belongings, her phone, shoes, and wallet were still left behind. Hours later, fishermen discovered Lauren's body in a cove. The official conclusion was that she fell from the cliff, suffered blunt force trauma, and possibly drowned. Her blood alcohol level was elevated, and on paper it seemed like a tragic accident. But almost immediately that explanation began to unravel under closer scrutiny. 2 deputies from another county who were on scene reportedly questioned the ruling right away. Witnesses described strange behavior from the group Lauren had been with. One account claimed 2 of the men were already near the area where her body was found before it was publicly known. Another described them appearing to wait, then suddenly reacting as if they had just realized she was missing. To some, it didn't feel like shock, it felt staged. Then there were the injuries. Independent experts and the family's investigator argued that Lauren's injuries didn't fully align with a fall from that height. Questions were raised about bruising patterns, a head injury, and signs that could suggest a struggle. There were also claims that no water was found in her lungs, raising doubts about drowning. A rape kit was never performed. DNA was not collected in a way many would expect in a case like this. For Lauren's family, those weren't small oversights, they were critical gaps. The location itself added even more doubt. Investigators working with the family conducted repeated tests and argued that it was nearly impossible for someone to fall from that campsite and land where Lauren's body was found. The terrain, thick brush, rocks, and uneven ledges would likely have stopped or severely altered a fall. They also pointed to water current patterns, saying her body could not have naturally drifted to the cove where she was discovered. And then came the witness accounts that complicated everything further. One man reported seeing a distressed young male swimming toward a dock that night, saying he had nearly drowned after coming from the direction of the bluff. He later believed that man was Aaron Lilly. If true, it directly contradicts the claim that everyone was settled in for the night. Another key voice came from Lily's ex-girlfriend, who told investigators about what she described as a violent past. She said she showed photos of injuries and tried to provide context, but felt dismissed. According to her, parts of that interview were never included in official reports. Lauren's mother, Sherry Smith, could not accept how quickly the case was closed. She pushed for answers, hired private investigators, and filed a wrongful death lawsuit in an effort to force more information into the open. She questioned why key evidence seemed missing, why certain procedures weren't followed, and why the people last with her daughter didn't act in ways she believed were consistent with someone losing a friend. That's where this case continues to live, in the space between what was concluded and what still doesn't sit right. Because maybe Lauren fell. Maybe alcohol and dangerous terrain created a perfect storm. But maybe something happened before that fall. Maybe fear, conflict, or something more turned a night out into something irreversible. The truth is, the only people who know exactly what happened on that cliff have never provided a version of events that answers every question left behind. Lauren should be remembered for who she was, not just how she died. A young woman full of life, energy, and possibility. But her story continues to be told because it doesn't feel finished. Because when the answers don't match the evidence, or the instincts of those who loved her, people keep looking. And maybe that's the most important part of cases like this. Not letting them fade into a single line on a report. Not accepting closure when it doesn't feel earned. Because sometimes it's not just what happened, it's what doesn't add up after. This is Case and Cues with Carrie, and I'll let you decide what the clues are really telling us.